We're so thankful that the Lord's hand of mercy has been there. Maybe it's so unworthy of it, but He still supplied that merciful hand there today. But today, just a little bit of a thought that we're going to have with you, and I'm going to share just a little bit of an event that's going to lead up to what the message is going to be here in just a little bit. There was a friend that called me a couple of weeks ago, and he invited me to come to church service with him. And I tried my best to come up with every kind of excuse I could think of not to go. That friend was Brother Ron Opplinger, and if you folks knows where Lewis Creek Holiness Church is, it is a long way from the house. And my first excuse was, that is a long way to go just to go for a church service. But he invited me to come. And you think about this. He asked me, he said, I'd love for you to come and just be in a church service with us. And I got to thinking how far that was. And, I told him, of course, I give him a kind of a cast-off answer, a response to it. I'll see what I can do, Brother Ron. And so this is how it worked with me for days. It's too far, first and foremost. So I'll have a legitimate excuse not to go. That's a long way to go just for a church service. There's pouring down rain. And I said, the road conditions will just be so bad, it'll be just hard to get there. The price of gas is outrageous. You know what it's going to cost us to get to Lewis Creek, way down in Harlan, Kentucky. I filled Pamela Sue's vehicle up, and it just about drained it when we got back. It needs to do it again. So I had all sorts of reasoning not to go. But a friend asked me to come. So what do you think that you should do? Use one of my many excuses that I could just continue to, I could continue to make up bore, this and that. I've got too many chores to do at the house. I've got too much going on. I'd love to, but a friend asked me. Not asked me, he invited me, come to be in service with him. So my response had to make, I will or I will not. And I'm going to compare this to an example that Jesus gave, and it was in a parable that Jesus gave that about what it was. And today, I'll just tell you, we're living in an environment now that people make every kind of excuse and every kind of reasoning and every kind of why not or why I'm not going to for every situation. You can come up with a reason or an excuse for anything that you want to. But Jesus put this into a parable about what it was that was getting ready to take place, and this was an invitation. If any of you in this congregation today invited me to take me out to dinner today, what do you think my response would be? I'd have to say, yes, I'll go, or I've got something already planned. But this is how that we have to use our excuses. So many things that we come up with and reasons why that we can't do it, and why, I'd love to, Brother Ron, but I didn't tell him why that I would love to. So this is what me and Pamela Sue done. Friday night, we headed to Lewis Creek. It was the wee hours of the night when we got back in, because it was a 5-hour round trip just to driving, not counting the service and not counting all the fellowship that we went to. But I'll just tell you, we enjoyed it, and it was worth the journey. So basically, my lame excuse that I would have used, the reason that I didn't go, was because of so many things that it didn't feel like it was going to be worth it. But thank the Lord. I'll just tell you, this is what this sinful world is doing today. They're coming up with every kind of reasoning and every kind of excuse that you can imagine, because there is an invitation that has been made. And I'll just tell you, I can ask every one of you that's in here and what the Lord has got planned for our future thing. There is a marriage supper that's getting ready to take place. And you know what you've been? You have been cordially invited. Come. Everyone that will. Who said come? The bridegroom said come. He that will, let him come. And let us take of that water of life freely. But this is what my little message that we're going to share today is, turning down an invitation. And this is how that the book of Luke talked about it. And it said, and in the 14th chapter of the book of Luke, it gave this perfect example about a supper that was being prepared. And this is what there was a master or somebody that must have been pretty financially capable of doing. And he must have thought a picnic party type thing to come. And it was just a supper is basically what it called it. And he said in the 14th chapter of the book of St. Luke in 16th verse, and he said unto him, a certain man made a great supper, and he bade many, or he was wanting, just a wonderful response, and they wouldn't have been nothing probably more discouraging to that man that made this event take place. And he looked up, and there's 2 or 3 people showed up at it. What do you think that feeling would have been for him? He said, I went to all this trouble. It sounds like that he's killed a lot of animals. He's done a lot of sacrifice. And he's made a lot of effort for people to come and enjoy just a great supper. And I don't know how that this was connected, but I also know that there is a great supper that's being prepared for us right now in heaven. And I'll just tell you, we'll have to do just exactly what these people right here done. And these was people that was on his, I don't know whether it was on his payroll or whether they was servants or what the deal was, but this is what that man done. And he said that certain man made this great supper, and he sent his servants at supper time to say to them that were bidden, come, for all things are now ready. So he didn't do this in advance and say, can you be here next weekend or whatever. He fixed the supper. He prepared everything in advance, and that's exactly what Jesus Christ is doing. He's up there right now preparing everything in advance, and he's not going to give us a 2-week notice and say, can you come in a couple of weeks to heaven? Because I'll just tell you, he's got things prepared, and it's getting ready to call everybody to it. And that's what we're doing here today. He said, tell them that everything is ready. And when they were all with one consent begin to make excuses. And here is the first excuse, and you're talking about lame excuses that these people come up with. I mean, it was not that they had so many things going on that they couldn't do it, but you just listen to how lame that this man's excuse was. At one consent, they made excuses, and he said, and the first and said, I have bought a piece of ground, and I must needs go and see it. I pray that you'll have me excused. Now, how many of us today would buy a piece of ground in California and never go out there and know what it even was? This what basically that man said. He had never went and seen this piece of property that he had bought. And now, if it wasn't for that, I'd love to come to that great supper that man's got prepared. But my goodness, something's got priority to it. I've got to go check on my piece of land. Let me tell you, that land will be there tomorrow. But he made an excuse today on that supper invitation. He made that excuse. I'm not going to go to it because I've got something else on my plate that I've got to just give the attention to. But folks, I'll just tell you, that will not stand up. When you stand before the Lord in that judgment day, it's not going to stand up, that excuse that you're going to come up with. So that man made that excuse. If it wasn't for that, I'd love to have come. I'd have liked to have been there. I'd like to have made it. The first and foremost was that he said, I've bought this piece of ground and I've got to go see it. Another said that I have bought 5 yoke of oxen and I've got to go prove them. So if you don't care, give me an excuse too. I don't know what his mindset would have been, that I've got to go out and try my ox out to see if it's going to be anything. If you already bought them, they're yours anyway, whatever that they do. So you might as well forget about what the excuse is going to be. So this second excuse was just as lame as the first, and I bought 5. But this is the point, folks, that they was making excuses not to come to an invitation. That invitation that is being made, you turn down an invitation, basically, is what they've done. That invite that they had, that this is what the man has prepared, just an enormous supper, and he's wanting everybody to come. And we encourage you to come. And they begin to make these excuses and whatever that their reasoning was to not come to this great supper that was prepared. But I'll just tell you, this sinful world today is making excuses why that they're not preparing to go to that great supper that's being prepared. It's so unfortunate. But the invitation is being made, it's being sent out. You can come to it and be part of that great supper that's there. And here's the third excuse that was there, and it's probably worse than the other two because he had the option to take his wife with him. You know, I said I don't know why that they would have even incorporated this into the excuse, but this was a parable. This is Jesus giving this that he spoke about. This is what the kingdom of heaven is going to be like when that marriage supper is fixed. There's going to be people that said that this is why they didn't come. I have married a wife, and therefore I cannot come. So I don't know what the rift was there between that. But so this is how that they came back to that man that had prepared that great supper. And this is how that they came. And they showed the Lord these things, and the master of the house, being angry, said unto his servants, go out quickly into the streets, the lanes, and the cities, and bring in hither the poor, the maimed, the halt, and the blind. When Jesus Christ was in his first experience that he had, he was there in that temple that day, and they gave him this book, and he began to open it up and begin to speak about futuristic things. And this is how Jesus responded to his call. He said, the Lord has anointed me to preach the gospel to the poor, the lame, the halt, the blind. And this is his message that he started out. His first mission that he came into was this is what he done. So this servant, this master sent him back out. And he said, you go get the poor. You get the blind. You get the lame. You get the ones that's in dire need. And he said, this is why that I want to do it, that my house can be filled. And this is what that is being still ministered and made available today. I know that there's a lot of people across this world today, just the multitudes and multitudes of people that's not going to make it to that marriage supper of the Lamb. Even though the invitation is made, they've come up with an excuse why that they're not going, but this is what is going to take place. When that invitation that was given to the poor or the lame, and they begin to come in droves, I would assume, to a marriage supper that was getting ready to be played. It didn't say it was a marriage supper, but it just called it a great supper. And this is how that they got invited to come to this event. It was after the ones that some of the higher elite probably of the community, they got the first invitation and they declined it. Jesus went back out and said, this is who I'm going to take this to. I'm going to take this message to poor people. I'm going to take this people that is in need. And I'll just tell you, he came to my little community. I was a poor and wretched lost man, and I'll just tell you, he made me an invitation. He said, I want you to come. He said, this is how he continued on with this. He gave me this comfort that I can feel today. He said, come unto me, all you that labor and are heavy laden. He said, I'll give you rest. This is a promise that he made. This was an invitation that Jesus Christ made to me, and he's making it to this entire world. Come unto me, all you that labor and are heavy laden. I'll give you rest. He said, take my yoke upon you and learn of me. And that's exactly what I've been trying to do for 50-something years since I got saved. I'm still trying to learn of the Lord. But he said, take my yoke upon you and learn of me, for I am meek and lowly in heart. And this is a promise that he made not only to me, but he made it to you. And he said, I will give you rest. And folks, if ever there was a thing that we are needing in this troublesome, burdensome world that we're living in, we need that peace that the Lord gives to us today. And he went to prepare a place, and it's called a place of rest. There's going to be a wonderful, miraculous supper that I can't even begin to comprehend the magnitude of it, but I'm just telling you, we was invited. And that invitation has to be accepted, and I'll just tell you where you accept that invitation at. I came to an altar of prayer and called upon the name of the Lord and said, Lord, forgive me. I need to have what you've got available, the invitation that you've made. And this is how that he continued on with this. And that servant came and he told his master, and he said, this is what I want you to do. Go back out. Go to a different community and find out the ones that's low, that the poor, they're maimed and they're halt and they're blind. And the Lord said to that servant, it is done, as thou hast commanded. but he said there's still room. And let me tell you something today, sinner people. There's still room. They sing that song that there's room at the cross for you. And there is still room available for you today. You can have a seat reserved at the marriage supper of the Lamb because there is still vacancy that's there. Simply because there's so many people making excuses not to go to it. But I encourage you, if you feel like that the Lord is dealing with your heart and you feel like that maybe that you're not where you need to be with the Lord, I can tell you, you have got an invitation to come to a spectacular event. And I want to be one of the participants that's going to be there to see what takes place in that. And he continued on, and the Lord said unto the servant, and I want you to go back out again then. And I want you to go to the highways and the hedges and compel them to come to the house that it may be filled. And this is a discouraging thing for the people that turns down this invitation. This is what Jesus said. I say unto you that none of these men which were bidden or which were asked or which were invited shall taste of my supper. I want to taste of that supper. You know, Michael Reed refers to it all the time. He don't know what's going to be on the table. I know that there's going to be some spectacular stuff that's going to take place that I can't even begin to fathom what it's going to be. You know, that Jesus Christ himself is going to serve us. I don't want that. He's already served me plenty enough, and I'll just tell you, I want to be able to serve him, you know, to do anything that he would have me to do. Can I get you anything else, Lord? But it says he's going to serve us. But you're invited. Duck Durham. This just flashed through my head. After I first got saved years ago, started singing a little song. You're invited to a wedding that'll be held soon. And I'll just tell you, that wedding is getting ready to take place. And I want to be there. And you have everyone got a cordial invitation to come to this wedding, that marriage supper of the Lamb that is being prepared. And so thankful today that he gave me that invitation, that opportunity to make that decision. I thank the Lord that Brother Ron Opplinger called me out of just, I don't know what it come across his mind, but he rung my phone and gave me an invitation. And I was reluctant to turn it down simply because that was a friend that asked me to do it. And if a friend asked you to do something for him, what are you supposed to do? If he asked you to go a mile with him, what are you supposed to do? So basically, that's kind of how I put it in my perspective, that I could have made an excuse not to go, but I need to make an excuse to go. You know, a lot of people make excuses on why they don't come to church on church days or church nights. There's an excuse. We need to make a different type of excuse. We need to make an excuse to go and why we need to go. And I'll just tell you, if we'll do that, we can make it to this invitation that was given to humanity, that there is a supper that is being prepared, just like this parable is talking about. But don't use an excuse on it, folks. Don't use no excuse. Come and let us call upon the Lord while he can still be found. So if you will, across the house and you're trying to figure out what kind of excuse you're using today, throw it back in the trash, folks. Your excuse, don't let it be used, but come and let us call upon the name of the Lord today. So if you will, we're going to get you to stand across the house. And this invitation, this invite is still in existence today because there's still room at the cross for you. And you can come and call upon the name of the Lord today.